Good afternoon. I'd like to call this Flood Diversion Authority Finance Committee meeting in order here on March 27th. Can we get roll call, please?
Mr. Montplaisir?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Costin?
Here.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. McCall?
Here.
Mr. Jacobson?
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Here.
Mr. Steen?
Here.
Mr. Gehrig?
Here.
Mr. Redlinger?
Here.
Dr. Mahoney? Mr. Grimberg?
Okay, and need a motion for the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Are there any additions or corrections needed?
I move to approve. I'll move to approve the minutes.
Do we have a second?
Second.
You got a second by Chad. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign? Okay, cool. Approval of the bills. I'm not sure who's, well, yeah, I'm sure,
I'd be happy to cover that.
sure, go ahead. Yeah.
There's a $10.5 million worth of bills submitted there. Largest request is about $6.8 million from the Cass Joint Water Resource District. There happens to be 4 fairly sizable land purchases in that packet. If you look at the spreadsheet, you'll see the details related to that. And also there's some City of Fargo in-town levy projects that are turned in as being submitted. Basically, we're cleaning up our book through the end of the year. So that's a reimbursement of complementary in-town levy projects. So 10.23 million in bills.
Okay, any questions? Okay, looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
Folks, so we got a by Mike and a second by Mike, so 2 mics, good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Forgot the delay, sorry about that. Okay, motion passes. Financial report, that's Kent again.
Yeah. On page 22, if you look at your report on the bottom right corner, 2019, we've expended $3,178,464 on the project, and a cumulative total of $456,911,486 on the expense side. On page 23, you'll see that our net position has gone up just because the constricted budget during this time period, we're up to $90,750,279 of resources currently available. The other reports are listed there in the formats that we've used in the past. I don't have any specific comments unless there's questions.
Any questions for Kent? Do we approve? Can I get a motion to receive the report and file the report?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Move on to the PMC report with Kim.
Yep, hi. All right, I'm filling in for Martin Nicholson today. So for the overall program status, based on the current 2.75 program budget, based on 2018 dollars, the actual expenditure to date as of February 28th is $456,911 and or $911,486. The backup is provided. And the report based on the fiscal 2019 Q1 cash budget, the cash budget is about $8.5 million. Paid to date as of February 28th is about $3.1 million, leaving a remainder of about $5.3 million. That's it for the PMC report.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me turn my mic on there. Thank you very much, Kim.
Sure.
Do we have a motion to receive and file the report?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. On to 6, co-executive director approved task order amendments. Who's speaking?
All right, I'll cover that as well.
Okay, thanks, Kim.
All right, yep. So there were 3 task order amendments that were approved by the co-executive directors. Task order 1, amendment number 4 to Braun Intertek Corporation for material testing services. That was a task order amendment worth about $36 million or $36,000 that added scope and budget and extended the period of performance. Task order 15, amendment number 10 for draft operations plans to the Houston Moore Group for $140,000. That's to add scope and budget for additional Corps of Engineers requested modeling and analysis. And there was also task order number 1, amendment 6 for Beaver Creek Archaeology for phase 1 cultural investigations that added scope and also extended the period of performance to December 31st, 2019 for a total task order amendment of $191,352. Also, that's not on the PowerPoint, but we're asking for a recommendation of approval for rate increases for Braun Intertek. They requested up to a 3% increase in their rates for fiscal year 2019.
Okay, any questions about the approved task order amendments or the Braun Intertek? Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can I get a better understanding of the task order 1 amendment 6, the Beaver Creek Archaeology, as to where it took place or where it's going to take place? It's probably in this packet, but it wouldn't shock me if I completely missed it.
Okay, I'll dig it out here. I have it.
Do we have it?
I think it's in the packet. It should be in the packet, yeah.
Right.
It's in this big package here.
Not sure it's in there.
So it's agricultural surveys for 3 rural properties and extend the period of performance. Let me see if it identifies where the cultural studies are
It seems
added.
we don't have it.
Let's see. All right, we can get you a copy of
That
that.
would be stellar. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I can get you a copy of all 3 of them.
Okay, before the meeting tomorrow, yeah?
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. Electronic copy, okay?
Yeah,
I'll
outstanding.
send it to Brielle and she can distribute. Does that make
wonderful.
sense?
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Please give me a description, though, if you would.
Sure, sure. All right, so let's see. Here we go. It is, nope, I think in the packet itself, it discusses, let's see. 2 relocations, 3 proposed locations in Cass County and in Clay County as specified on the map attached, which I don't have the map. 4,600 per Cass County location, 5,800 per Clay County location. I'm going to have to get the map in order to give you a specific location for this. These are for Class 3 Cultural Resource Inventory and Architectural Survey for the 3 proposed locations. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I'm just curious, but it's just the location is all.
Location, okay, I'll get the map.
Mr.
I'll get the
Redlinger?
map and I'll make sure that that's distributed.
I would need to see the map as well.
Okay.
We'll get that for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, we'll distribute to the entire committee, right? Yeah, okay.
I also don't have the map, but it's my understanding that these are rural properties that are of a certain age where we are required to do a cultural sort of historical significance survey before an acquisition process. And these are properties where I believe property owners have asked, to move forward with the acquisition process. And so this is sort of a procedural thing. The Beaver Creek Archaeology is one of the firms that has been long-standing doing this type of work. And so I think we can follow up with the map. I just wanted to provide that context.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
That's a great deal of help. I was wondering how and why we got there, and it seems as though it's just what you have to do, therefore we are doing it. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Tony?
Can I ask the reason for the rate increase for Braun? There's nothing.
So per their contract, they're allowed a 3.5% annual increase. They did not ask for an annual increase for 2018, and they are asking for one in 2019.
being allowed and being required or being justified is very different. I don't see any justification here whatsoever.
The justification would probably be that they've, based on inflation.
I'd like to hear that. I mean, I don't know what everyone else on the board here, but I'd like to see a reason, and I don't think we should approve it. This has come to us before from engineering firms, from all different types of firms who in their contracts say that it's legal for them to receive automatic increases, but they never provide justification to these boards. So if we're rubber stamping these things, then why are we here? We need to say no to these. Next year when they come back for their allowed increase, they can provide justification at that point. So I would obviously like to put on this one separately than the other task orders.
We can, I was gonna ask a question, or, you know, the rate increase, what was it? There's a maximum of 3.5, but I don't believe it was ever mentioned. Do you know what?
Yeah, it's 3.5%.
It is 3.5.
Yeah. Yep, so they originally requested higher than that, based on the fact that they didn't receive a rate increase in 2018, and we denied any increase above the 3.5%.
Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And generically speaking, I'm guessing 3.5% across the board, because before we've gotten to sort of a beginning and an after, so it's 3.5 consistent throughout the entire pay rate?
Yes.
Okay. To Commissioner Garrick's point, I actually brought this up as well when we had a prior, and I guess I criticized my own firm back when I had a firm. Our guests aren't as good as these guys in terms of negotiating pay rates and pay increases, but I've always struggled with sort of arbitrary increases. I realize that there's inflation. I realize everyone in the room probably got a pay raise, and things aren't as, cheap as they were last year in most cases. But I really struggle with the across the board without explanation increases as well. And again, I probably get it, but I think we're due something more than, we need 3.5% more, please, Kay. Well, me too. So I get it, but more explanation I don't think is an unreasonable request.
All right. I can tell you, and I know this is not, I'm not trying to make an excuse here, but we did compare this with the rates of the other geotechnical investigation firms, and their rates do fall in line. So the rates seem to be appropriate.
Like Northern?
Just so you know.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Yeah, Northern and Terracon, I guess.
Terracon, yep.
Any more questions or discussion? We can take that as a separate item. So we can vote on the approved task order amendments. Can we do all three at once? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the task orders?
So move.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. And we'll take a roll call vote on that.
Mr. Montplaisir?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
No.
Mr. Costin?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Gehrig?
No.
Mr. Redlinger?
Okay, that motion passes. Then we'll take the Braun Intertek rate increase. One last time, is there any more questions on that or discussion?
This is Rick.
Yep. Go ahead, Rick.
These are co-executive director approved task order amendments or approved actions, and I'm assuming at least one of our co-directors is in the room. Could they speak to it? Have they reviewed the comparisons? Are they comfortable with the recommendation?
So Rick, this is Mike. We're on the Braun Intertek rate increase right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. Whatever that one is, that's what I'm referring to, the Braun one. Yep.
Yep. So Braun, unlike, I'll just to borrow an example for comparison, HMG typically goes through the rate chart and we'll look at individual positions. Some may be adjusted, some may not. Some might be adjusted below the 3%, and then others to the max at the 3.5. I think in this case, there's some questions, presented here today, and if folks would want us to go back and get a statement from Braun, I guess I don't really have much to add beyond what Kim has already said, that they are permitted under the MSA to go seek the rate increase that they sought. They are permitted to go to that level, and it does check out that way. And again, what Kim said is my knowledge as well, that in 2018 they did not receive any adjustment. So
Beyond that, and looking at Terracon and some of the other peers in the market, we don't have any additional documentation, but if the committee's interested in that, we could certainly ask them to provide something, table this, come back next month.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jen.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Mr. Redlinger, I think I'm going to wind up doing exactly what I did last time, is objecting conscientiously and then supporting it, right? But I would very much appreciate if you could, or Mr. Wilson could get us anything to at least validate this. And again, I'm not trying to make more work for you. I realize you're very busy, and I sincerely apologize for that, but I'm struggling with just a 3.5, again, just because. Sorry to be a troublemaker.
Chuck, I noticed on the rate schedule, there's about a 5 or 6 page rate schedule with an abundance of equipment listed there as well. So you know, where there's a decision to segment that and you know, leave the equipment flat, if you will, and then negotiate the COLA increase on the labor rates, that's probably more common. I couldn't believe the extent of their listing of all this stuff that goes with their work, but anyway, some is equipment and some is labor, and obviously the labor is probably most expensive.
Okay. So, I don't know if we're looking for a table or a motion.
I move to deny the request.
Move to deny. Is there a second on that? Okay. That failed. Is there a motion to approve the Intertek 2009?
I make a motion to just table it until the next meeting, and we can get more information.
Second.
now and then.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Why don't we do a roll call vote on that?
Mr. Montplaisir?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Costin?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson? Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Gehrig?
No.
Mr. Redlinger?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is tabled, or the rate increase is tabled. We'll move to item 8, which is the Property Appraisal Services Contracts Report.
We just wanted to make you aware that the co-executive directors have approved, and it's gone through approval of the Cass County Joint Water Resource District, 7 master services agreements for appraisers, and along with that, 5 task orders to perform appraisal services.
Okay, any questions on that?
I just had a question with regard to the detail. Is there no detail provided other than just a listing? Am I missing something? So when you refer to the packages, is that an extensive package or a listing of where they're going to be appraising?
Eric, you want to respond?
Right after we received the permit news from the DNR, we issued an RFP for appraisal services back in January. Through that RFP process, we received 8 submittals for appraisals, along with proposals to do work on 5 appraisal packages. Each appraisal package varied from, 10 to 20 different parcels of land associated with the diversion channel. And through that review process, we had a selection team recommended awarding the master service agreements to all of the firms, and then divvying up those first 5 packages to 3 of the firms. So those recommendations were developed with the review committee. We actually talked with the land committee last month, approved that recommendation, and then it was forwarded to the Cass County Water Resource District, and they approved those contracts subsequently. And so I think maybe your question was, mapping of the packages. So it's basically all channel properties associated with the diversion channel.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions? We'll move to item 9, revised 2019 program budget, next steps discussion.
I'll take that one. And just a
Michael.
brief update for this committee. We've talked earlier this year about coming back in the March, April timeframe to talk about revising the budget for 2019. The one thing that the other co-executive director and I have recently done is meet with the Finance Committee Chair, Vice Chair, as well as talk with the PMC about trying to get to this activity in April after the outcome of the contested case hearing process is known. We thought that that'd be appropriate. We still are operating in the black through Q1, and then come back with a little bit more comprehensive look at the remaining Q2, all of Q3, and all of Q4 budget for 2019 after we have a little bit more certainty about where we're going for this year. And so what we're planning to do is present this revised budget in April. We'll come to the Finance Committee and then go to the full board after that. But just a very brief status update, no action requested of the committee today. Just want to let you know that there's been some discussions around that topic, and we look forward to continuing to work with the PMC to create a stand-up budget once we know a little bit more with the litigation circumstance.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions? Okay, moving on to item 10, preparation for task orders 5 and 6. I don't know who has that one.
It's Kim.
Okay, Kim, thank you.
So this is the same thing. It's just a heads up. There's no action required, but we just want to let you know that coming in April, there will be on the agenda a request for an approval for task order 5 and potentially task order 6. It looks like that one's going to be held off. Again, it's going to depend on the final outcome as we move forward through some of the processes to get the project back on the rails. So the task order 5 would be for a continuation of program management services. Currently, we're operating under Amendment 2 to Task Order 2. That's set to expire April 31st of 2019. This task order 5 would be based on a full-blown set of program management services, probably at a slow go. It's going to be set up like task order 4, where we have approvals every year on the budget to move forward. It's also going to, or we're looking at contemplating including a small task for restarting the P3 activities, provided that it looks like it's going to go forward. Task order 6 would be the full set of services for the P3 procurement and implementation that we are expecting. And John, you can let me know differently, but right now it's, based on the outcome, whether or not we're going to bring that one forward in April or not.
Thank you, Kim. That's correct. We don't contemplate bringing task order 6 forward in April because we're still waiting on the results of the federal litigation, and then we'll also have a little more information about the contested case hearing process. So it's probably going to be May or even June before we talk about task order 6, but certainly need to address task order 5, which is the PMC, because as Kim said, task order 2 amendment is going to be expiring.
Question, Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have we started giving a briefing to our co-executive directors as to what the scale is going to be of task order 5? And that's more of a question to Mr. Redlinger, and I see Mr. Redlinger nodding.
Yeah, we have talked over the winter months just about what this will look like, but again, as Kim and John have said, just acknowledge that now probably isn't the right time, but when the time is right, later this spring, want to come back to the committee, have some discussion here and with the full board just about what that looks like, so.
Yeah, my concern is that this didn't drop it on you, like, hey, look what we're doing, we need your input tomorrow.
Yeah, it's been a collaborative discussion. We appreciate it, and I will say I think the PMC's been real responsive to the client too in our considerations of just being where we are in the process, not knowing where we're going to be at the end of Q1, beginning of Q2. But to Kim's credit, Martin's credit, I think we're all on the same page about trying to get lined up for future work, but knowing that right now we're just not there quite yet.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, item 11, other business, and I believe Michael has something with the North Dakota State Water Commission.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I did pass out an item that was just emailed to us earlier this morning. John Shockley, Eric Dodds, and Nathan Borboom and I were at the State Water Commission yesterday, and Mr. Mattern from the Water Commission staff gave us an advisory that he was going to be providing us with this documentation. He emailed Chair Sherling just today. What this is an amendment to the cost share reimbursement agreement that we have, the Diversion Authority has with the State Water Commission. This is a pretty standard agreement. We've all looked at it. It's on the back page. This is just a front and back. It's just a very simple agreement that then allows Kent, once he has eligible expenditures, and Mike, once he has eligible expenditures, to code those against this new installment of 66.5. Same terms as before, a 50-50 cost share. And John, I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add to it, but we did have a very brief meeting yesterday with the state engineer, and Jeffrey was a part of that discussion as well. I'll let John offer any comments he has.
Sure, I can give a little bit of background, members of the committee. This cost share agreement relates to the $66.5 million installment that was recently requested before the State Water Commission relating back to the 2017 legislative appropriations. Mike is correct. We met with the State Water Commission yesterday to go over, or the State Engineer's Office to go over the cost share agreement. There was a question about how the legislative intent would apply to this agreement versus the 2015 agreement. The 2015 agreement was covered with legislative intent regarding the use of the proceeds for administrative expenses and land acquisition. The State Engineer's Office is taking the position that that legislative intent, while not binding on the 2017 appropriation, should still apply. And so the genesis of that view from their office was to put together this amendment to allow the additional $66.5 million from 2017 to be tapped into. I will be preparing a resolution for Cass County Joint Water Resource District, City of Fargo, and Cass County. One of the items to speed up the process for reimbursements, the State Water Commission agreed that we could just have the Diversion Authority be the approval agent for reimbursement requests rather than having to go to each entity and have that whole recreation of all that work and time and try to be a little bit more efficient. We also had a very positive discussion about handling future costs associated with the project. I'll utilize one as a great example. Once we award the P3 contract in either 21 or 22, there will be a milestone payment. We'll say a milestone payment of $150 million. Rather than having the Diversion Authority pay that sum out of either borrowed proceeds or short-term financing, prior to that installment payment being due, we can send it to the State Water Commission and they can cut a check, and that'll help save some of the financing costs. So it was a very positive meeting. We didn't get everything that we wanted, but we did get some of it, so.
So, Mr. Chair and members, the motion today would be to recommend approval of this agreement, and amendment number 1 to the full Board of Authority, and I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Chad. Let's do a roll call vote on this one, too.
Discussion.
Can we have more
Oh,
discussion?
no, a little more discussion. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ken.
I did have a question. The 2015 legislation, the staff opinion that still applied, is that contrary to our local opinion?
It is my view that the legislative intent, as I'm often reminded as I'm testifying before the Appropriations Committee, the legislative intent doesn't bind future legislative bodies. However, the State Water Commission staff's view is that it does, and so they were going to follow the prior legislative intent. And having sat through several committee hearings with State Water Commission staff, I understand why they take the position they do, because they have to answer to the legislative body, so.
Thank you.
Any more questions or discussion? Okay, we do have a motion. We'll take a roll call vote.
Mr. Montplaisir?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Costin?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. McCall?
Yes.
Mr. Jacobson?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Redlinger?
Yes.
Okay, any other business?
I just had a comment with regard to that approval. We've been sitting, waiting for this to happen, so there's a 10% administrative cost allowance that's privy to this funding bill, so we will immediately draw $6.65 million to cover our past expended administrative costs, and then so that's a very positive thing.
Thank you, Ken. Any more discussion or questions or any additional items? Our next meeting is April 24th. Do I have a motion for an adjournment?
So moved. Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you.